Hell has never looked so inviting. Namibia is home to the oldest desert in the world. Nothing can withstand the fiery furnace of the Namib Desert. There are two golden rules in the Namib: always drive in a 4x4 and never without a co-pilot. Dirkie doesn't follow either of these rules. Despite the risks, this daredevil prefers to drive completely unaccompanied in an old van from the 70s, or almost.
One of the difficult things is the desert constantly changes. The dunes move every day. You know, the weather changes constantly. We've got 4 different types. The wind might be blowing, there might be fog, and visibility can sometimes be almost zero. The climate is very hot during the day. It can get very cold during the night. With the sandstorms, it's always a problem. We've got snakes, we've got scorpions. You have to be vigilant the whole time. You need to be an experienced driver to navigate in the desert.
Dirkie doesn't really have any other choice. He had the crazy idea to build a hotel on the other side of the desert, several hours from the nearest town. He occasionally wonders what on earth he was thinking.
There's no backup, there's no friends. It might take days before you see another vehicle. You know, spending a night in the desert is the last thing that you want to do.
The Namibians have nicknamed their country the Devil's Cauldron, and the nation certainly lives up to this name. This year, Namibia is experiencing its worst drought in 30 years. People try to find water wherever they can. To combat the sun's blazing heat, solidarity is key. Water transporters navigate the country's beaten tracks to take water from village to village. Most of the rivers have disappeared, so the Herero and Himba people travel several miles to find watering holes that they can share with their livestock. The food shortage brought on by the drought has forced these tribes out of the bush. But their struggle against the sun has not diminished their undeniable zest for life. The Namibians fight so willfully to survive that the gods occasionally hear their prayers. In northern Namibia, the groundwater level is extremely low. These old pumps either retrieve nothing or a less than desirable liquid. This is the only water point within a 30-mile radius. Jimmy is setting off to supply the isolated villages in the bush with water. Unfortunately, his vehicle is not really up to the task. Jimmy is transporting 500 litres of water, which is just enough to supply 2 villages. Unfortunately for Jimmy, slowing down is difficult. And the engine isn't in the best condition. Without water transporters like Jimmy, several families would be forced to give up their ancestors' land. In 6 months, almost 60,000 animals have died of thirst in this country. It's February, right in the middle of the rainy season, but the earth is as hard as concrete. Due to the water scarcity, 1 in 5 Namibians don't have enough to eat. To save their livestock, farmers require several water tankers a day, but none of them can afford it. For now, Jimmy still manages to procure enough to fill his containers, but for how long? The drought is forcing an entire population out of the bush. These individuals now rely on towns like Opuwu to get their food.
Next destination, Tel Aviv. Next
An unbelievable, almost surrealist scene is unfolding in this supermarket. These are Himba women. They form part of one of the oldest tribes in Namibia. Normally, they would never leave their territory. But since nothing is growing in the fields, the village chief has sent them shopping for supplies for the whole community. There is one item in particular that the Himbas are not willing to compromise on. Butter is a necessity in their culture. The Himbas use butter as a hair and body lotion, but now with no grass to graze on, their cows are not producing enough milk for them to make their own. Their trolleys are full of flour, sugar and oil, enough to feed the 7 families in their tribe. Their village is 2 hours away, and finding it requires an experienced driver. There are no signposts in the bush. This man is one of the rare drivers who knows how to follow the trail like a tracker.
Yeah, we are used to. We know, like, if you drive so, sometimes you have been driven there a long time ago. Now you just follow your track. I'm telling them they have to hold still.
Why?
Because when you're going up and the road is so, sometimes they don't sit proper and then they will fail.
For the Himba people, the journey has also been a long and difficult one. There was a time when the Himbas almost completely disappeared. In 1904, German settlers exterminated all the tribes who tried to bar them from their territory. This massacre is thought to be the first genocide of the 20th century. Nowadays, the Himbas live off the land and continue to respect their ancestors' traditions. The men are rarely seen in the village during the day. They go out to take care of the livestock. Shortly after their shopping trip, the women make their beauty product. The butter is melted and mixed with ochre dust.
Ojide jo ojide mugori omua. Imba de yul mandu biti sabo omawan ho hadendu. Chimuna ndumba mwamba hadendu mwamba de heriko. Posio jini jangu jori mu biduga mu budugabe.
The Himba women are very cleanly, even though they never wash themselves with water. Personal hygiene is prioritised every morning with a perfumed smoke bath and the application of ochre. The red ointment hydrates their skin and protects them from the sun and from insect bites.
Kona kuchiza oko kudera kudere akulawi pemwe naho bitoto mbikutuka sambi chikawira kwamba ndaye ukaine nakatirango ukadzukire kagwi munhu kwabindike kuchire kuno kukaenda nacho singa musi okukuruka ubumujeta wizetu yiviri nahambyana.
The Himbas are guided by wisdom. Their philosophy is to avoid anger at all costs. No matter the problem, there is always a solution. Dirkie was born in Namibia. He follows the Namibians' philosophy to the letter. When travelling to the hotel he built among the dunes, it's best to stay calm. There are many surprises on this track.
If you've got broken vehicle, it's a life and death situation at the end of the day. You can imagine getting stuck without water.
The rear suspension has just stopped working. It's 45 degrees, but Dirkie remains calm, like the Himbas.
Yeah, books. Now, look at the trouble we've got. Huh? Oh, he's tired, huh? Yeah, oh, books.
Phones rarely get a signal in the desert, so the Namibians have gotten used to travelling with a toolbox.
So now we have to drive this road without suspension. But we'll see. Hopefully she'll make it. This car, maybe more than 900,000 kilometers already on the engine. I have replaced the engine, put a new engine. But the rest of the car is very old. It's a 1972 model. And it's only been driving here in Namibia on the difficult roads. So it does not know how a tar road looks.
The two friends keep their spirits up, even though the hotel is still half a day's journey away.
Kom eens maar omreg. Kom eens maar omreg. Ja man, kom. 5 years we've been together, my friend. Never have you let me down. Maybe the car has let us down, but not us. Good friends.
In the Namib Desert, there's nothing but sand as far as the eye can see, and near to the coast, the salt works are a sight worthy of an impressionist painting. These spectacular shades of pink are caused by an alga. It's also a potent dye. If these pink flamingos didn't eat the algae, they would be white. The road through the saltworks may be straight, but it's still very dangerous.
Unfortunately, these are the crosses of people that has died on this road. in a vehicle accident. It shows you how dangerous this road really is.
In Namibia, there is danger everywhere. Right now, the danger is in the sky. Even the Himbas who use ochre to protect their bodies from the sun are struggling. Due to the persistent drought, the Himba women are forced to search for water further away from the village. The river near to their home has dried up. Every day, these women walk for over an hour under the scorching sun. They continue their journey without ever complaining. It's the only water point within a 40-mile radius. A few rare clouds keep this muddy watering hole alive. Sharing the water with their animals is regarded as an honour. The Himbas believe that the dead are reincarnated as part of the herd. Each woman carries almost 15 litres of water. Back at the village, two of the women are preparing for a long trip. Tararua is one of them. She's leaving to represent the tribe at a funeral for a respected Himba chief.
Liungula po ponto wakanjona katiti kumupuluro kutukungula monumbu hoko wanga kuangela ipia nokuhinga ukombo nokutwaka nakumakungala kuno miti mihama mbyatauka imalekali nokuha kulungu na utazo ngombe nzomale pundu mubatutire mbuku chale hele yapo kalere mumutaye nawe.
Tararua and young Kapeke are travelling to the funeral ceremony with a delegation of Herero women. Although these women may not look alike, the two ethnic groups are closely related. They originally came from the same tribe. The Herero women wear the same traditional dress as the wives of the 19th century German settlers. The wives were preoccupied by the thought of their husbands being surrounded by these naked women, so they taught them to sew. But even though the Hereros were more or less integrated, this didn't stop the Germans from trying to wipe both them and the Himbas out.
Oh, Kiroko, Mirongo Hamanda, we end up on Mirongo. Oh, oh, Yanamundo. Oh, the Umpamba, Mena, Jamimuni, make over the Wu, and Daku Camena, the Umbulico, and Daku Hedge, Posia Mena, the May you Linda with Jumbura Miro.
Can you get it?
These women are going to have to hold on tight. They are about to embark on a 6-hour journey on the back of this pickup. There has always been a certain rivalry between the two tribes. It occasionally rears its head when there's plenty of time to spare.
Munimbiango kudara uli gimunikana malahiro gwango kukala no mavere nei umwanumbo kukana mavere penyana po matumbo na yu ko binembimbi hanga ko je
Oh, Bomino, you hear in Yichanga, you did a good one, Decomanum. Oh, you did a jeep. No good, you have me and you did a lady. I don't get him. Moga, you didn't want you don't want ya.
Oh, my God, and Kaina, what? Oh, maybe now you know, huh? The government not know it's enough money to do the.
Andalo mujinga wa imo opua mundu mwakala uli no mavere penyanda kujawe amondoro pani o mavere aheri penje uli na mwanombo
Twairira.
aya
Katumu kuguli wandekana hetangali.
o imbo bumbi hawanga mbobo kukala no mavere no matumbwa penje uli Muno hotela mi mujuru ami muni hinonje sene jimuno den timba setra male pokan ne ma uliro no utiti uli ne okujana hino kumunikana na jibamba mumuli wahilo na mulina mena kujana mungu ronga kundo bambando ndumudala lemo no hulanda uliko bando mulonga na ipu
Kuto haba tulisando kuno ya zero kenda ke buko kukala ndo miyani. Wewe mali bale katuwi munu katuwi ne ke kujavya sana.
After being shaken about in 100 different directions, Erastophine and her friend now turn their attention to the driver. With 4 hours left on the road, the Hereros' complaints have barely begun. The wind is scorching hot. Even the birds refuse to take to the skies. And yet, this brother and sister are venturing deep into the Namib Desert. Hours of walking without any respite in the shade. In fact, Dorothy and Manuel are carefully avoiding the only bushes that are tall enough to offer them some.
Yeah.
They are just under 2 miles from the mine where they spend their days working their fingers to the bone, digging for semi-precious stones. The mine doesn't belong to them. Dorothy and Manuel dig there without anyone knowing. The cave's location is a secret. Their family passes it down from generation to generation like a legacy.
Ja, maar ons sekkel, laat ons moeten iets krijgen.
The tunnel is only 10 metres deep, which is not enough to protect them from the heat. After 2 hours, the mixture of hot air and dust becomes almost stifling, but Dorothy and Manuel don't slow down.
Materialen, ons zoekt die mooiste, beste club. Laat ons die vorm gaan. Verkoop en die geld krijgen, kost koop en terug te komen. Die kleren koop en die schoenen koop, al die goede koop. Ons is klaar uitgeraakt samen met die klippen.
After spending 4 hours underground, Manuel and Dorothy finally give in to the heat. The mine is like an oven. But Manuel's work is far from finished. Now he has to sell the stones. He sets up his stand on the side of the road. This miner spends hours waiting in the sun in the hope that passing travellers will buy some of his aquamarine, topaz, citrine and tourmaline gems. Stones forged in sweat and sold for a ridiculously low price, like this amethyst.
How much does it cost, that one?
This one is a 20 rand. Yeah.
And even then, these sales can only happen if the cars stop. Manuel's village is situated a few metres from this road. Several families share these metal shacks which have turned white from the sun. The heat inside is unbearable.
Nee, of dan niet. Steen om zo maar. Nu kom ik op. Meubels naar dan niet daar. Ga ik iets niet houden. Is verk en lepel. This one. Pols. Ja. Nog. Oké. Finish.
If Manuel had belonged to a tribe like the Himbas or the Hereros, he wouldn't be any richer, but his quality of life would be better. In these tribes, solidarity is extremely important. Nobody is left to fend for themselves on the side of the road. Back in the Himbas territory, some light rain has brought the vegetation back to life. Tararurua immediately notices that the rainwater has reinvigorated a much-loved fruit tree. After 3 hours on the road, this stop is a welcome break.
Oh, the women are good Javi. I mean, to them, no, and Rombra Chiaroco now. Naipuma, we have a moment with Javi, queer to Gadeco, Umbra Cairo now. Oh, Puma to the Gujakura, Miss here to a Guyamba, and I would to Gadeco.
Without these bush taxis, the Himbas and the Hereros would have to spend several days walking to the tribe leader's funeral. These old cars play a key social role in preventing thousands of people from living isolated from the rest of the world, and also supplying them with food. The driver takes advantage of this trip to deliver some merchandise ordered by the grocer from this remote village. Just before the taxi sets off again, another Himba family asks to be driven to the hospital for an emergency. Their little boy has been bitten by a dog.
To take hospital or the clinic, Kongwat Hospital.
With 4 extra people in the back of the pickup, Erastafine can't hide her frustration.
Mine no good mena go javi o lombade de poando. O mbade no uzu o mbude poando. O uzu o mba ude poando ana jevengi muno mena imbato dombo. Chima andima gadwa ko jipangana na ngwaru uzu wa hitiru kuru mo rutulo mundu. Ako jo mundu me mundu mukwati mapene na ihamo muti majiri me okuto kulizu bana bimena kuja makumbukumu kulo muni kuja. Kamuno wanganga kamuno bipangero bisemba. O klinika deri koma kure. Konangu mo makuti mutuli mukamuyo bihauto. Okujo mundu o jeta uli. Charo jiwa tora jiwa twako kasino. Charo jiwe hapo jipangero jimwe ya we amo jipangero jaka ngwati onesa kaipo omununga gogere po jipangero mbaka peno nesano. Okujete muno mwi.
Once they reach the hospital, the boy's mother will quickly forget this unpleasant encounter. Her son's injury isn't serious. After a few stitches and a rabies injection, the doctor lets them go home. A little further on, a group of women have stopped on the side of the road. Like Arastafine and Tararua, they are on their way to the funeral for the Himba chief, but their bush taxi has broken down. They've already spent an hour waiting in the 45-degree heat. Unlike its neighbouring country, South Africa, there is very little racism in Namibia. One look at the situation and this driver stops to help.
You want water?
He doesn't hesitate to share his water supply.
But there are some water points around here. We've seen some water points, but where we are now is far away from that. We just try to be nice because over here anything can happen to you, and then if we don't help each other, we get a bad situation. You know, it's really hard. These people are really, really tough. They can survive a long time without water, but they don't like it. Yeah, so this is just to be nice. Okay. That's the last little bit, but you can share, yeah? Okay. Okay. So it's finished, Paul. Thank you.
The truck will make it back onto the road 2 hours later. The passengers were very lucky to encounter this driver in their difficult situation. The roads in Namibia are often deserted. The country is 1.5 times the size of France, and there are only 8 inhabitants per square mile. As the day draws to its end, Dirkie leaves the Namib Desert to enter another bleak landscape, Namibia's Moon Valley. Living here seems impossible, and yet...
Come. Woo! That's very steep down there.
Deep within this barren landscape lies a hidden oasis. Dirkie has built his hotel here. Old cars have been tactfully positioned all over the place to accentuate the apocalyptic feel of the surrounding mountains. Convincing tourists to travel all this way isn't easy, but he hopes to entice them with his new idea.
They are busy building a wedding chapel in the mountain. They only get a truck maybe once a month, and then it's a big load, but they only wanted the small quantity. That's why they asked me to bring, you know, only the small amount. So hopefully in 2 weeks' time they will be finished, and then it would be a nice place to have a good wedding. Bucks, kom stap hier saam.
Dirkie is concerned about his business. For now, the spring keeping his oasis alive is still flowing freely, but he is afraid that it might disappear one day. Unfortunately, the blazing sun is not only a danger to people, Namibia is also a wild animal kingdom, and enormous reserves are starting to run out of water. 82-year-old Andrew has been observing the climate's impact on the local wildlife for years. This farmer's land spans more than 10,000 hectares. Here he raises sheep and cattle that live in harmony with the other wild animals in the savannah, but the water scarcity is becoming a serious concern.
We'll go now to a water drinking place. Cattle and the sheep, they drink their water. We'll now get into the more sandy part, drive alongside the sandy rivers. Because you do need four-wheel vehicle to operate in the sand. You can see there's still a little bit of grazing here. Bottom part of the grass is still a little bit of green. And this stuff, you know, the wild animals, they eat the stuff. We'll just drive off this normal road so that we can go to the place with the zebras and the kudus. And I just love it, to be in the veld and to know what kind of life you do find there. You know, the zebra tracks. You know, you are part of life, and the wild stuff, they are also part of life. And we all live here together.
Soon, there will be nothing left to share because in a few days, the water will have evaporated. But suddenly, a miracle takes place. It finally starts to rain.
It's not a lot of rain, but hopefully it'll rain a little bit more.
As expected, the sun quickly dries the earth again a few minutes later. But the rain still gets Andrew his reward, a herd of zebras and ostriches. This spectacular sight is at risk of disappearing if the rain doesn't quickly come back in buckets. Torerorua and Erastofine's bush taxi has finally reached the main road. Although they are still smiling, the journey has been exhausting. It took the driver 8 hours to travel 55 miles. Now that they have arrived, the funeral for the respected Himba tribe leader can finally begin.
Oli muna hepero ko bina bihuri ndale ponganda ko bina munyono ponganda kutila andu nukutumba andu ponganda.
Okuja chiwala no ho imbambe chali muna hepero ko ando menelo kuja o bandu mbambu akotwa pamwe chimununguru mendu akotwa puno wakaendu wakadumbu wakwata banachi.
Over a period of 3 days, these men and women will pay homage to their beloved chief. Namibia is still a young country. It only gained its independence in 1990. The Namibians' lives are rooted in a delicate balance between ancient tradition and modernity. However, the drought is threatening this way of life. Without water, the exodus of the Namibian tribes will be set in motion.